Ladies and gentlemen, President Obama's message towards a global Green New Deal that we just saw in this video is a perfect opening to welcome our next distinguished speaker. He will talk about the evolving role of US environmental policy, both globally and domestically, and President Obama's vision of a green recovery to simultaneously address both economic and environmental challenges. And since we are in the middle of an economic and environmental crisis, you may wish to know that our speaker has received the NATO Service Medal for his crisis management work at NATO's Deputy Assistant Secretary General for Political Affairs, covering political relations with the countries of Eastern Europe, the Balkans, former Soviet Union, and the Mediterranean. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the US Ambassador to Greece, Daniel SPECKHARD.
Thank you very much. It's going to be hard to compete with a video like that, but I'll do my best, especially with an audience like this who I know is so interested in this issue. And it's easy for me as the ambassador in Greece representing the United States and the new president, President Obama, to get enthused and excited about issues of both corporate responsibility and the environment. You heard about the Green Revolution being talked about there. That really is part of my message today, and a message I think you're going to hear coming out of Washington. Responding to these massive environmental challenges is one of Obama's top 3 long-term priorities, along with improving healthcare and educational systems. It's become clear that we can't deal with the environment challenges on our own, but we must come together with the political will to solve these problems, not just because they threaten our future or the future of our children, but because we are, as Secretary Clinton has said, good stewards of our planet, a role that requires us to be pragmatic and seek creative solutions for these complex problems.
I'm going there right now, I think, or let me see.
November is nowhere is it more important than in reshaping our dialogue between the private and the public sector. That is the issue of how we're going to deal with being good stewards of our planet. Neither side, the public nor the private sector, can tackle the challenges of the environment by itself. We in the government must do what we can to create the right conditions and incentives for entrepreneurship and innovation to flourish. So first, let me start by talking about our leadership. Within the first 100 days of office, President Obama has committed us to seek a better relationship with the world, repair alliances, and to build partnerships to deal with global threats and concerns. He rightly refers to ours as an era of responsibility, a new era of American leadership, and that clearly expresses itself on environmental issues. And I know this message of responsibility is one that fits well with your conference here today, where you're talking about corporate responsibility. Just last week, the United States hosted a preparatory meeting of the Major Economies Forum on Energy and Climate in Washington, one of the many efforts to work towards a successful outcome at the UN climate negotiations in Copenhagen. That's where 17 major economies, accounting for over 80% of the world's emissions, gathered in Washington to discuss how best to contribute to a successful outcome at the UN negotiations. That forum, which included Brazil, China, and India, was designed to discuss clean energy partnerships and talk about how to make technology work for us in adapting to the shared global climate changes. The result for the forums was very positive. A special envoy, we have a new special envoy in Washington that was named by the President for climate change. His name is Todd Stern, and he noted after these meetings that everybody came out of the room more optimistic when they went in. Stern said the participants did not stick to their prepared talking points. Rather, the dialogue was open and candid. As a diplomat, I can tell you that may not sound like much to you out there, but it is a big deal when people move beyond their speeches to start talking in an interactive way. And when we're dealing with these huge challenges such as the environment and the mix between the environment and the economy, you need to really have a discussion, and you can't just deliver speeches to each other. And so I hope that's happening here in the conference, and I look forward to hearing from you as well as we do the same thing. The administration is about dialogue, the new administration. and not monologue. I'm sure you've heard that already, but they mean it. As Stern noted in the plenary session of the ad hoc working group in Bonn, he said, "We have been doing a lot of listening, a lot of sharing of ideas with many of our counterparts, and this concept of listening to our partners reinforces the Obama administration's pledge to engage in constructive, vigorous, and creative diplomacy to find solutions to these climate challenges." The key is to combine science and pragmatism. This does not underestimate the difficulty of getting an agreement in Copenhagen, but given the task ahead, an open and frank dialogue is a good start to facilitating cooperation. The next preparatory meeting of the forum will be held in Paris this month. Let me talk a little bit about what the United States is doing to combat climate change. President Obama's stimulus package includes $80 billion in funding and loans for clean energy development, and is built upon encouraging the creation of green jobs on the road to a low-carbon economy. In order for all of this to work, the private sector is the key to the generation and transfer of new technologies and services in areas such as solar power, fuel cells, energy efficiency, and green buildings. We're also working on programs to make our homes and buildings more energy efficient. Funds will be made available to both the public and private sectors in order to resuscitate the economy. We believe that government and business need to share responsibility and ownership for global recovery, and as a result, the U.S. and EU have teamed up together to bring alternative energy and energy conservation companies to a trade show called Bright Green at the Copenhagen Conference. So again, you're going to see a partnership between governments and business, and you're going to see the role that private initiative, ingenuity, and technology can bring to this challenge. We recognize the importance of expanding cooperation on research and development, particularly in the area of science and technology. President Obama, in his address to the National Academy of Sciences just last week, made a historic commitment to basic science and applied research, publicly devoting more than 3% of U.S. gross domestic product. I'll say that again, 3% of U.S. gross domestic product to research and development. That's an enormous amount. President Obama doubled the budget of key agencies, including the National Science Foundation, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, and the Department of Energy's Offices of Science. Moreover, he stressed that he's creating a research and experimentation tax credit, one that returns $2 to the economy for every dollar that we spend. By helping companies, it will help them afford the high costs of developing new ideas, new technologies, and new products. President Obama has also called for a number of measures to revolutionize the way we use energy. The Obama-Biden Comprehensive New Energy for America plan will, for starters, help create 5 million new jobs by investing $150 billion over the next 10 years to invest in renewable energy. It will reduce the import of oil. It'll put out 1 million plug-in hybrid cars, 1 million of these plug-in hybrid cars on the road by 2015. These are cars that can get up to 150 miles per gallon. It will ensure that 10% of our electricity comes from renewable sources by 2012 and 25% by 2025. And it will implement an economy-wide cap-and-trade program to reduce greenhouse gas emissions 80% by 2050. Already, President Obama is working with Congress to transform the U.S. to a low-carbon economy. He has dedicated $20 billion to a smart grid power network for consistent energy and electricity production and distribution in order to increase our use of renewable energy sources. I'm sure, as many of you know, part of the challenge is building these new production and distribution systems so that we can tap into these new technologies. And so much of that $20 billion will help create the dynamic so that the new technologies can be used to their full effectiveness. $27 billion will go towards green highways and $8.7 billion to a public transit system, creating green jobs and reducing emissions. President Obama has pledged to weatherize 1 million homes annually and to develop and employ clean coal technology. And by linking our economic recovery to a green recovery, Obama has signaled that a leadership starts at home. To those who view the relationship between environmental protection and national security as a zero-sum game, I would remind them that increasing green jobs and reducing emissions will have the added benefit of reducing dependence on imported oil. As we speak, Congress is discussing the Waxman-Markey bill, designed to lead to a reduction in emissions, which would lead to large changes in the way the U.S. generates electricity and how it manufactures and heats and lights its homes and offices, and how we move goods to the people. So the whole point of this effort is to try to change and revolutionize the way we provide the energy and electricity, the way we get our products that support this, and the way those products work in our homes and offices. And it aims to create a suite of federal emission standards as well, government standards for cars, trucks, and ships. It also encourages states and utilities to develop plug-in electric vehicles and infrastructure by setting low-carbon fuel standard for the transportation sector. As part of the President Obama's plan to turn to plug-ins, these cars that you plug in, Obama has announced $2.4 billion in stimulus cash for plug-ins and advanced batteries just last month. As former Vice President Gore emphasized so effectively in his presentation in Athens, called An Inconvenient Truth, environmental protection is not solely the domain of the federal government. Individual U.S. states are working on energy efficiency efforts in concert with the President's American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, which also provides new spending and loan guarantees to assist in transformation to a clean energy economy. I think it's important to note, when you're looking at the U.S. figures, I've seen this a lot of times in my work, particularly when we compare the United States and the European Union, that in looking at the United States, you have to look at what states are doing as well, because that's oftentimes not included in the totals that you see on the federal side. Several state legislators have already passed bills aimed at boosting renewable energy development, including New Mexico, Utah, and Kansas. California is leading the change on solar energy, while Texas is a leader in wind energy. The U.S. administration is truly committed to making this into a green revolution. The heightened attention to the environment permits all this administration does, and we in Athens are doing our part. Our embassy is a member of the U.S. government's League of Green Embassies, committed to energy efficiency. This league was established to help set goals for our conduct at our embassy to reduce our energy consumption. And we are working on a plan at our own embassy here in Athens to install a 20-kilowatt solar panel in the embassy and to use recycled water on our grounds. On a larger scale, we're working on a U.S.-Greece initiative to deepen our science and technology cooperation on energy efficiency and sustainable development in the Balkans region in the coming months. We believe that this could have a significant impact on how we will be able to mitigate and prevent the deleterious effects of climate change, and that the Balkans can do their part through cooperation and support of Greece and the United States of using each of our comparative advantages to help these other countries in the region develop their energy efficiencies. So I hope my point is clear. The United States is deeply committed to reducing our carbon footprint, and in doing so in a way that emphasizes working together with our international partners. We are open to dialogue. We are committed to dialogue. This is a long-term challenge, and no single country has all the answers. But working together, be it with Europe, China, India, Russia, or through international organizations, I'm confident we'll find a way to restore economic growth while reducing mankind's impact on the earth. I'm very proud to be part of your conference here and this group and collaborative effort to tackle, through corporate social responsibility and through government responsibility, the challenge of our generation, of how to sustain, maintain, and support economic growth, but do it in a way that respects our earth and supports the environment. Thank you.